Hi, it's Davey Mooney coming to you from the University of North Texas, where I run the jazz guitar program. Benedetto artist, Sunnyside Records artist. Got my Sunnyside CDs up here, and also my improv book from Mel Bay called Personalizing Jazz Vocabulary. And I'm putting the finishing touches on my new book, which is called Into the Labyrinth, An Anatomy of Position Playing for Jazz Guitar, which explores more of the technical way that I went about learning the neck and specific shapes that I use, things like that. But today I want to talk to you about the Thelonious Monk tune, Light Blue. It's one of my favorite songs of his, and particularly about the version on the album Thelonious in Action, which is, gosh, it's so great. It's recorded at the 5-spot, the legendary 5-spot in, I think, 58, with Ahmed Abdul-Malik on bass, Roy Haynes on drums, Johnny Griffin on tenor, and Thelonious Monk. And this album is so raw and powerful, and just, I don't know, it's one of my faves. And I love Johnny Griffin. I love how he just kind of shreds, is the only way I can think about it, really put it, as he does also on Full House, which is, the great Wes Montgomery album, and of course on many other recordings of his, but those are the two that I know the best. And it's interesting, the 5-spot, such a legendary place in jazz music, I think in American music and American culture too, because supposedly it was the hangout of a lot of abstract expressionist painters, Jackson Pollock, de Kooning, my man. And I remember when I was living in New York and I was studying at NYU, getting my PhD, 5 Cooper Square, I believe, that's why it was called the 5-spots. I remember going looking for that address, and I don't think that address exists anymore. And no plaque, no nothing. I mean, Charlie Parker's house in the East Village at least got a little plaque. But maybe that's a sign of how we value these places. I mean, that just seems like a real shame right there that they tore it down and didn't even do a little something, a statue. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I love this tune, and it's interesting. It's very short, right? It's about like 8 bars, I guess. There's a second ending, so 8 bars or maybe 16 bars, and there's so much music. And I guess I'll kind of talk about the melody for a second and the chords at the same time. It starts off like this. You have like a F major and a G7 to C7. F major again. So you think you're in the key of F, but then F7, B flat 7 to C. And then you kind of realize, okay, this tune's maybe it's in C. And rhythmically, that's really interesting. So in time, it goes. That's the first 4 bars. And it's interesting, that exaggerated sort of bounciness in the 16th notes there that I just played is part of the recording too, and it gives this tune, it's almost like a carnival kind of atmosphere. And I've talked in previous videos about how Thelonious Monk tunes, oh, there goes my pick, extra, have kind of a real specific way of certain things are very straight and certain things are swung. And there's some of the rhythms are even almost like a dotted rhythm. And that, if you don't believe me, go back and listen to Thelonious in Action, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. So like I said, F major, G7, C7, F major 7, F7, B flat 7, C major for a whole bar, and then D7 to G7, sharp 11. And then the second 4 bars. And that's the whole song. So that second 4 was F major 7, and then F7 to G flat 7. And it kind of tricks you because, previously the melody would go down, along with the bass on those parts, But right here the melody goes, I'm sorry, it goes down while the bass notes go up. So it's kind of like, what happen. And I remember the first time I learned this song, I kind of learned it wrong. I wanted to go, but it goes. And then F sharp minor to F minor to C. And there's that classic D flat major 7 Thelonious Monk thing where there's that counter line from the flat 5 to the major 3rd, and it's a little different than it is in than it occurs in Monk's Mood or Panonica, but that last part, you know. So you have the D7, G7, and then a D flat major, and then back to F. And harmonically, it's really interesting because it's all these ways of kind of turning around to the 4 chord, you know, because the tune is in C, but it's always 4, right? It's always F, and then, you know, so F, okay, 2-5 with dominance, right? F, okay, and then F7 to B flat 7 going to C, so that's like a 4 minor turnaround, or around here I've heard people call it a backdoor turnaround, so like a F dominant 7, B flat 7, going to C, which is kind of like F minor going to C, and that's how I learned that progression as a subdominant minor progression. Then you got the C, D7 to G7, and you think, okay, well that's a 2-5 in C, but then it goes right back to F again for the second half of the tune, without any kind of, you know, it doesn't go. You just have G7 sharp 11 going to F, which is really interesting. Then the second half, like I said, there's so much music packed into these 8 bars. So you think it's going to be the same, but as I said, the second half you have that F major, and then you have F7 going to G flat 7. So it's sort of a 1-5 back to 1, although it's F dominant going to G flat 7. So kind of 1 dominant to the tritone sub of the 5, 1, and then F sharp minor going to F minor to C. Whereas the last time we had F7 going to B flat 7 going to C. So, like I said, it's slippery, and it's hard to remember each time where you are, which one of those turnarounds you're going to get. And then, like I said, the last part, D9, G7 to D flat major 7 sharp 11, which you would think, okay, well that's sort of the tritone sub of G7, which would be 5 of C. Like, okay, we're going to go to C again finally, but no, we always go to F, and it gives the tune this, like I said, it kind of circular feel. Like you kind of resolve for a second, but you never, you're always going back to 4. And so yeah, it's fascinating. So one more time just to go through that. So F major, G7, C7. So okay, 2-5 of F major using dominant chords, and then F dominant to B flat 7, which is a sort of minor 4 or backdoor turnaround to go to C major, which is actually the 1 chord, and then a D dominant to G7 with a sharp 11. You think, okay, we had a C major, and then we have a 2-5 of that, but instead of going back to C, it goes to F again. Then you have F dominant to G flat 7. So it's like, you know, F major 7, and then an F dominant 7, and 1 dominant, or I guess it's 4 in this key, but you know what I mean, because it's sort of a 2-5 back to it, but dominant, and then a 5 of that, back to F major 7, then F sharp minor 7 to F7, F minor 7 to C. Then D9, G9, D flat major 7. And yeah, it's just a lot of, you can explore a lot of cool improvisation ideas over that and really explore those progressions, you know. Those little, in my book I call them, you know, 5 8th note resolution cells, stuff like, you know, on a B flat 7. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So some notes that are, I guess in this case they're not really outside of the key because the chord is B flat 7, and it's just kind of outlining that chord. And one thing that's interesting in the Johnny Griffin solo on this, that because I always, for a while I kind of wrestled with, well, what do you play over D9 to G7 sharp 11 that goes back to F? instead of going to C. And so the D9 is maybe kind of simple, that you could just play D Mixolydian, you know. And then, okay, on the G7 sharp 11, is that like a melodic minor mode? That didn't sound right to me. It's not like D melodic minor. Is it whole tone, maybe? That would be a possible guess with Thelonious Monk's music. He does like the whole tone scale a lot. But when you listen to Johnny Griffin, several times on this, on his solo, on Thelonious in Action, on that progression D9 to G9, he plays like a really kind of fast D major pentatonic on the D7, on the D9, and then on the G7 sharp 11 he plays a D flat major pentatonic, which, you know, is a cool option for sort of an altered dominant sound. But I guess I always sort of figured that would be a good option to lead you back to C. But the fact that it goes to F doesn't really matter that much, because it's sort of the upper structure, you know. I mean, because you're still kind of going from an F major 7, in the upper extension of it you have a C major triad. So the resolution kind of works that way, even though it doesn't go 5-1. So it's like I said, it's a tricky progression, and you get so many different kinds of turnarounds going to the 4 and back to the 1. But yeah, Johnny Griffin. I can't even, I mean, I can't play it quite as fast as he did, but it's funny, it's almost like a guitaristic kind of thing. Sounds like the Allman Brothers or something, but anyway, yeah, it's a really cool tune, and I encourage you all, if you haven't checked out Thelonious in Action, to get that. Well, I guess, do we get records anymore? I think you should buy the CD, personally. But you know, you can, it's streaming or whatever, if you can find it. Admits when I try to look up Light Blue on Apple Music or Spotify, you get all these different versions from different compilations, and it's kind of annoying, to be honest. But yeah, Thelonious in Action, man, Roy Haynes and everybody, it's a great record. So all right, I'm going to play some choruses on this tune, explore some of these ideas, and I hope you dig it. Thanks.